Today's sponsor is Audible.com, who has more than 180,000 audiobooks and spoken word audio products. Get a free audiobook of your choice at audibletrial.com/CA Telecast. This month, we're recommending Star Wars The Force Awakens by Alan D. Foster. This is the official novelization of The Force Awakens, so if you can't get enough of the movie, give it a shot. Go to audibletrial.com/CA Telecast and grab your free audiobook and help support the telecast. Yes, we're recording. Let's go.
Good. Greetings, travelers. My name is Nick Murphy.
And my name is Satchell Drakes.
And we have a special guest.
I'm Paul Ritchie.
All right.
Hey.
New guest. First time on a guest on this thing,
Is it?
man.
Yay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Well, Paul, welcome to the Cinephilia Anonymous Telecast. We're going to take you, Paul, especially you.
Just you.
Just you. On an interstellar adventure through the darkest corners of your mind to unlock your hidden passion for cinema.
Oh, I think your satellite is very nice, so thanks for bringing me out here.
Yeah, dude, maybe that's how we'll start working this, is like, that's the premise.
That's not a premise. I'm on a satellite. I don't know
we
what
kind of put
you
him.
guys...
No astronaut suit. You're just on a satellite.
Yeah, I
just riding it.
I just appeared here. This
And
is
we're in
like
the
this is a weird, like, I don't know. I just appeared one day. It's very Kafka-esque right now. I'm on a satellite.
Just popping in. Just
Popping in.
waving by. So cool. Yeah, we're excited. We all watched this film. This week we're going to be discussing It Follows. It came out in 2014. Directed by David Robert Mitchell. It's like his third film. He did like a short and then another feature.
Did he do another feature? I didn't know that this was his. I thought this was his directorial debut.
I thought I remember reading that he did like a smaller feature.
Did he?
Yeah. But yeah, super interesting movie. Horror, suspense, supernatural kind of thriller movie. Satchel, why don't you give us like a rundown of what this movie's about?
Yeah, sure. So this film is definitely horror and suspense, and it kind of dances between the two, because everything, I don't know, usually with horror there's like this big element of mystery that you sort of don't know, but for this film everything's kind of like unpacked in the beginning for you to follow through. So there's definitely like a lot of like on the edge of your seat stuff, and if I could be fully transparent, I like literally just saw it and I'm like still coming down from like how tight my chest was during the entirety of this thing.
Are you looking over your shoulder to see if someone's walking into your room?
Right.
So
none of my windows are made out of pure glass, so I think
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's the big part. Apparently, that's all you need, like not glass windows. Mm-hmm. And
right.
So there's this teenager, young adult. It seems like they're in high school or like community college or something. Named Jay, who is in a relationship with her boyfriend Hugh. They do the nasty, and she learns that she's kind of like the most recent host or like recipient of this curse that's like passed on from like sex partner to sex partner. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, when you're infected with it, there are these people that can either be somebody, they can look like someone you know or someone you don't know at all. They're constantly walking towards you, no matter where you are. Like, there is a being that is walking towards you to kill you, and only you can see it. It's like a poltergeist of sorts. And the only way to free yourself from being constantly pursued and killed is to have sex with someone else and have it pass on to them. And the key component of that makes it really eerie is that you kind of have to explain to them what's going on, because if they die, you become a victim again. There's sort of like this chain of command, and like if the person that like you pass it on to dies, then you're next on the list, and you have to find someone. So the entire goal is to like get it as far away from you as possible.
It could be considered an STD chain letter or pyramid scheme.
Oh, chain letter. That's interesting. Someone like Elevator pitched it to me as a demon STD.
Yeah.
Or like a demon that possesses you when you have sex with someone.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, what? It's such a weird like premise.
Yeah, definitely.
So like right off the bat, it's such an interesting premise. It's like an interesting idea. It's something that like I don't think we've really ever seen before. I can't think, and nothing comes to mind that's like
anything like it. No.
Like this movie.
Well, what's fun about the idea is it sort of takes the normal horror movie trope of it when you have sex, you're allowed to be killed. The loss of your innocence equals you get to be murdered now. And it just sort of like cuts out the middleman of like the monster trying to kill you. And it's like, no, the sex kills you. That's doing the sex kills you. You know?
Yeah,
like,
but it's still got that like monster like.
Oh yeah.
Part of like Jason is like he's like an unstoppable force that's just going to keep like. Yeah. Jason doesn't really run toward you. He just kind of like lurks toward you.
Just like this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting. Okay, so the movie opens up in like this like suburban kind of setting with this like awesome 360 shot.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, there were a few of those that were so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to see like the camera work kind of like reflecting the movie and like the tone of the movie a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like everything is just kind of like the camera just kind of like sits and like discovers things, and you're kind of like trying to like look through the frame to figure out which you should be focusing on. Man, it was like such an interesting like setup, like that 360 shot. It like opens on this girl running out of her house, and like you're trying to figure out
what's going on, because without any context, she's like can't stay put for some mysterious reason.
Yeah, and you know what? So like upon viewing it like the second time,
those shots become so much more meaningful on the second.
Yeah, it totally does. Like the first time, it's totally about discovery and just trying to ground yourself in this world and figure out what am I supposed to be seeing, what am I supposed to be like looking for, and that's the great part of it, is that you don't see anything. But on like a second viewing,
when they're at Lawson High School and it turns around, suddenly your MO is completely different. Like I'm like looking at edges of the screen, like where is it? Like where are they?
Where's the person? Which person
coming.
is it in here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like the second viewing, I found myself like Rebecca and I watched it, and we were just like looking in every frame to see what we could see. And I was especially interested to watch this opening scene again to see if it was there, and like maybe I just like missed it on the first time, but it's definitely, you definitely like don't see it.
Well, that's the beauty of that, is on the first pass it's like, this is just weird. What's with the weird camera work? What's with these weird roundabout ways of her running around the street and all that stuff, because she's running around the thing in that moment. She's making a wide berth around it because she's literally trying to keep her distance from it. And like on watching it the second time, you're like, oh, now that I have the knowledge, I can see where it is. And when she looks up from on the beach when she's talking to her dad, and you see the shot of the car, it's like, that's an iconic horror movie shot. The car with the monster walking past it in the headlights. That's like a shot that you'd see in a horror movie, but it's missing the right half of the frame. But it's there,
and missing the monster.
That's what I'm saying. The right half of the frame is the monster. Like that would be the monster in the right half of the frame, and it's not there, but it's there. Like she sees it, but you don't see it yet because you haven't been indoctrinated into the world yet.
I wonder if like while making this, they kind of had a monster pass through. You know what I mean? Like for the camera, like, okay, let's see where the monster would be walking through the frame,
right?
And then just like replicate that without it being in there,
right? Just so like, what, for actors more, or just for framing and stuff like that?
I guess for framing and for camera and stuff. Like I wonder if like consciously they're like framing the shots as if the monster
could walk in
there
at any moment.
Yeah, like
I definitely felt that way.
Was there? Yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, it'd be an interesting like discussion with the
director. I think something when I was watching it again was I was bringing up that a lot of the same thing, lots of the movements, composition, things like that don't make sense until you watch it the second time, or they make sense maybe as you're watching it and you're like thinking back on it, but you have to gain this knowledge in order to get it. And like when she's out at dinner. with the guy she's dating at the beginning of it, the framing is they're heavily shoved to the right, to the point where the guy is almost off the camera, and you're seeing outside, and you just see a person walking through the frame. And at the beginning, you still don't know about these creatures then, and you're just like, oh, is this like just some weird, like, what's the idea? Like, is he just going for like weird composition for like his artistic sake or whatever?
Right.
But in reality, he's really trying to focus you on this section.
Oh yeah, that's something that's something I took notice of like a couple of times throughout the film. Like even so in the beginning, like those wide shots were super wide.
Yeah.
Like full frame wide. Mm-hmm. Like when she was sitting outside of her car just waiting.
Yep.
And it has so much more meaning later that essentially if you have this curse, if you just sit still, that's suicide, right?
Yeah.
And like that sort of like brings justice to her, like calling her dad and apologizing and feeling like she's like can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
But then also like whenever they're in the city, like it's super wide as well. And like after you gain like a full understanding of the story, it just becomes like an invitation for like anything happening.
You're wide open, you're no matter where you are, you're at the center of this monster's grasp, like it has a beeline on you. Another thing I liked about the 360 slow pans, where they're very, very unique stylistically. Nobody's sitting there fucking being like, I'm going to spin the camera around on the tripod, no one's doing that because it's a crazy idea. One, for just production's sake, where the fuck do you hide things? Two, what I really like about it, and it ties into another thing that I like about the movie, which is the lack of a distinct time period, or even like it's in Detroit, but it still doesn't necessarily.
But we don't really know that until they start talking about 8 Mile, right? Otherwise, it's not pointed out.
It's not pointed out.
Let's like unpack that a little bit, like real quick. Like that time frame thing is very. I think it's definitely purposeful, like for it to be like kind of like anachronistic in the sense that you just don't know where things are, because like all the TVs are all like CRT monitors, like there's no flat panels.
There were
or
some
anything.
old school TVs in there,
and the movies they're showing are.
But then the device that she had, the touchscreen shell, that had me thinking, wait, is this like partially sci-fi, or are we just...
Yeah, and it's got like a weird kind of like. I mean, it's like a like a Kindle. It's like an e-reader kind of thing. It's just like a book on it.
But she uses it as a flashlight, like we would our phones at one point. So it's like it is a utility beyond that. So it's like real weird that how they have all these different, I don't know, technological advancements, but not.
Yeah, and like her clamshell like phone thing was really interesting because like that's what like birth control used to come in like a thing like that. Like Rebecca was telling me like when she was like younger, that's how it came. It didn't come in like a little like slip thing or anything like that. It came in like a compact almost. Like I guess it was like meant to like look like that. So I think that's like definitely a purposeful kind of production design kind of thing, but also just like an interesting choice for that kind of thing, and especially for a monster that gets or an entity that gets spread through sex.
Right? I read an interview with the director a while ago, and he commented on that, and he said his reasoning. Now, it's not necessarily the only reason, but it's one of the reasons he did it. Was that he felt not giving the viewer a way to grasp immediately or throughout the entire movie when this thing is taking place creates a feeling of unease because you're not able to be like, it's the 1980s, it's whatever, like you're not able to ground yourself, and because you can never fully ground yourself because you're seeing cars from all different decades, you're seeing different technology and things like that, you're kind of like, where am I, what, and then like normally that would be something a director would avoid to do, but he did it because he felt it added to the unease. And tying it back to the camera movements, I think the 360 slow pans are used for exactly what you guys were talking about, being like, where is it? Where's the thing? I'm looking for the thing now. And I think that's definitely like a very, very, very literal thing. Like you, as the camera, are feeling how the characters feel, which is I have to look everywhere at all times to see where this thing is coming from.
Constantly surveying their surroundings,
But I also
especially felt like that when they get to the school.
Yeah,
there's like that 360 shot, and there's like it's coming down towards you. It almost felt like in some of the Paranormal Activity movies, they like I think in like the second one or something, the guy sets up a camera on like an oscillating fan. So you get like used to that rhythm, and then that's where like the scare comes from. So I was like anticipating that coming from it. But like his choices with these were like so much more
intentional.
Yeah, and they're really like toying with like those kind of conventions.
Well, I think,
you know what I mean?
I think that he's trying to make you feel that same sense of lack of an anchor. You don't have a visual anchor in any of those scenes because you can't sit there and be like, here's where I'm sitting as the camera looking at a thing and like waiting for the next cut and things like that. You don't get it. You get your eyes constantly flitting about the screen, similar to how your brain is constantly flitting around trying to figure out where and when you are. And I think it's a visual representation of the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really well done.
I agree.
And what do you guys think about the...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Satchel.
And I was going to say, especially, well, two things. Especially when she's looking for... One thing I noticed that's kind of weird is, like, when she's looking at... when she's looking for, let's just call it the poltergeist, right? When she's looking for the poltergeist and we're not sure where it is, but we know that it's nearby. I found oftentimes, especially when the poltergeist was, like, in the kitchen, like... she would, let's say she's walking out, she would walk out profile, and then she might stand in like the left third of the frame, and like along the z-axis there's always like multiple points where it could possibly be, and the direction that she's looking is never like revealed to us right away. So it's like, is she staring at it in the eye, or is it behind her, or is it behind the camera? Like you never really know, which like always added to like how tense I was. But then also one other like intentional I don't know, I guess camera technique I really appreciated was the centered first person shots of like her hands. Like it would always like come up whenever there was like an intense, whenever we knew that she was feeling like an intense emotion. So like when she was feeling nostalgia, when she was touching the plant, fear when she was choked out, when she was explaining her conversation with the officer, when she was in the hospital, like all of these moments, it always like cut back to like her hands. I thought it was like a nice like personal thing to kind of bring. There was a lot of language in that and in the score as well that guided my heart in like a really cool direction.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were really the only like POV kind of shots that really like put us in her mindset. And that was nice that they let like the director like save them for those moments to really just kind of take back like there's nothing for you to, and not that there's nothing for you to absorb visually, but you know, the thing you should be focusing on is this, and not, you don't have to worry about it. Like it's not coming in these shots. It's just, these are just character moments, which was kind of nice.
Right. Yeah. And it's something you do is you look at your hands, or you look at your feet, or you look at, you know, the ant that's crawling up your arm when you're in the pool, you know, like there's just like, that's what you look at, you know,
or when you're locked away for 13 years.
Right. Right.
What did you guys think of like Detroit as a setting? I was trying to figure out, like, as I was watching it, you know, was it like a conscious choice as like, this is the city we chose because of a reason? Like after reading afterwards, like the director's from like the Michigan area, so like,
yeah, I was gonna say I think it makes sense from there.
Yeah, but I feel like it has like not a better, but like a bigger role, because I mean they talk about like not being afraid, like not being allowed to go like past 8 Mile. Like it seems like an intentional kind of thing that like Detroit is like the setting for this, that it like maybe like Detroit has this past that the city like can't escape, like this automotive, like in like a bigger sense kind of thing. Like
I could buy that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That has this like this stigmatism that like the automotive thing, and the city can just like never get past that because that's just what the city's known for. There's no running away from its past in that sense, and it'll always be like haunted by that.
I could see that
kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know.
In my head, I sort of went that, like, without like intentionally kind of processing it. I kind of thought like, okay, Detroit, like, yeah, there's something like, there's a stigma. A stigma is a good word for it. There's something about it that feels like broken down and abandoned. And I don't even mean that in an insulting way, but just like with its history and with its reputation, that I almost think about like, if there were going to be some kind of place, some kind of dystopian-esque place where like all these weird things are happening with weird technology and stuff. Maybe it would be Detroit.
Right.
Yeah, and I wonder too.
You know?
Like I was thinking about like not just the city, but
I apologize to anyone from Detroit listening.
yeah, no, we totally don't mean that in like a disrespect kind of thing, and just trying to like analyze it in that sense.
Well, I mean, it's a
like,
city. It's a city that's in like almost complete disarray. It's rebuilding. It's growing
it
again.
needs like
you know,
a revitalization. Yeah. I was thinking about the parents too. Like a lot of anytime there's parents on Jay's mom is like never around, and the other guy's mom.
Yeah, it's like they're on their own completely.
Like, they say that like she's like, oh, he won't. He says something along the lines of like she won't even know I'm gone. Like the one girl, like Jay's sister asks, "What about your mom? Like, will she care that you're out?" And she's like, she won't even notice I'm gone or something like that.
Yeah.
Like all the parents, except for the dad in the beginning, they're all kind of not there. Like it's almost like a world full of young people.
Yeah.
You know, like these are the only people kind of in this thing. And I wonder if that's...
in some weird way, you almost forget, not to knock the film, you almost forget because the actors are so much older. Like, I almost took it as comical. I don't know if you guys remember Walk Hard, when like they're kind of going through this biopic and people are supposed to be different ages, but they're not, and they kind of play on it. Right. And they're like, 13-year-old Dewey Cox, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, I remember that part of the film where they play the trade game, and then he's like, oh, I want to be the little kid. And then he's like, you're not that old. You're 21.
Right.
Yeah. And like I'm looking at him like, dude, you're not 21.
Yeah. Well, they're not that age, but I think they're supposed to be. Well, it kind of goes into something that I think we'll talk about later. I don't want to go too into it, but I think that they're supposed to be in like that nebulous early 20s region of your life, that very like you're not in high school anymore, you're not an adult, but you're kind of caught in this like nether region where you're going to school, you don't have a full-time job, your parents are busy with their work, you're kind of like expected to just go out into the world and figure shit out at that point. And a lot of people feel like kind of listless and stuck and maybe even like a little alienated when that happens. And I think that kind of creates that feeling of that time of your life where your parents, you know, your parents care very much about you at that time in your life, but they also are like, well, I'm an adult, and especially in an area like Detroit, like their mom, a single mother now because her husband passed away, trying to support a family. She's waking up at 5:15 in the morning to go to work, and she's obviously got an alcohol problem.
Right. Yeah.
So like she's probably pretty depressed, and she's probably kind of aloof in that regard. And I think they love their mother, but I think there's a disconnect because like the youngest sister. Talking about smoking and not wanting her mom to know she cares about her mom. She obviously isn't rebelling and trying to flaunt her rebelliousness in front of her mom, but she knows that her mom is aloof and not there. So I think it's kind of trying to give you that feeling of like a world you're kind of on your own. You know, you're kind of like just thrust into this world all of a sudden as an adult. You know?
Yeah,
I definitely get that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. Like, with like kind of like the dad in the beginning is kind of like the only one that we see.
He's very caring. Yeah.
About them, and I wonder if if we take this at like the it kind of metaphor.
At the same time, I was so like confused by the fact that he didn't like question her running out to the car to drive off the way.
Yeah, running out in heels.
That was weird. Yeah.
He definitely, although there is...
it's like this half concern. It was like weird.
There's hints of that there's a strained relationship because she's like, I'm sorry that I'm such a piece of shit to you sometimes, you know? So like, there's hints that there is like a strained relationship there. So I think... Go ahead.
Sorry, and I wonder if like, like if we take it at face value that it's that the movie's about, sex and the things that come along with that. I wonder if that's like there seem to be like a couple like things hinting toward that. Like it just seems like this dad is like, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. What's happening? Like I almost feel like that's when you get to that age and you start to be like adventurous in that sense. Like your parents are always just trying to, I don't know, like they're like not willing to understand that you're an adult. You know what I mean? They're trying to hold on to that kind of thing. Sure. And I wonder if like there's some of that in there, because there's a couple of shots like in the beginning with like there's like shots of the like as soon as like the first kind of break-in happens, there's these shots of like the family like on the wall and like all these pictures and stuff. Like, is it like I guess like a
they
like
kept cutting back to those, and I kept wondering if that
like
was
a remembrance of like their
some
innocence kind of thing. Well, I read this thing. I read on like IMDb like this trivia thing. Like I didn't even catch this. Like this like I think this is the third time I watched this movie. But like so Jay's looking into the mirror as she gets ready for her date with Hugh. There are 2 photos on the mirror. One of Jay in the swimming pool, and the other is of her and her father.
Yep.
At the end of the film, it takes the form of her father and attacks her in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So I like missed that. I didn't
you
even,
didn't see that?
on that?
Wow.
Oh,
I didn't connect.
That's why she says she doesn't even want to describe it.
Yeah, I didn't connect that was like her father. I didn't make that.
Oh yeah, that's her dad at the
guy.
end, man.
It's crazy.
I think I noticed that the first time because I was looking at those pictures because it's a real slow shot pushing in on her at that mirror.
I'm so bad.
No, you're
like,
not. No, it's like a very...
No, I admittedly I am like you guys seen The Mist, right?
Uh-huh.
So like at the end where like the army guys are driving by and like the woman is like on the army thing. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh man, those people got away, and like Rebecca was like, that's the lady from the beginning, and I was like, no, and she's like, yeah, and I was like, oh my god.
Hey Nick, maybe you're face blind too.
I think that's what it is, man. I think I'm colorblind and face blind. I don't see faces, Paul.
Oh my god! It's like The Ring, but all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's got the ring on their face.
What was the Dick Tracy? The blank. Everybody's the blank.
Everybody's just a putty from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah. It's true.
They're all go.
Well, cool. That was good. Why don't we take a quick little break and then we will come back and talk some more about It Follows.
Let's do it.